Good morning, and very good morning. Welcome to the show. Welcome to VUEGRAPHY. In the last couple of weeks, I was testing that lens given to me by Nikon Middle East 50mm 1.2S. And while I was testing and comparing its images with other 50mm's, I came across something. And I thought, okay, let me make a dedicated video about that. And the thing which I came across is called diffraction or whatever you call it. So what exactly that diffraction is? What happened exactly? I was comparing with different 50mm's, that 51.2S for the Z mount. I was comparing 51.8 pancake, 55 3.5 macro, 55 1.2S AIS lens. But that 55mm f3.5 macro lens, that basically caught my attention. Of course, that lens is literally sharp, even starting with 3.5, and it was very sharp. You can see the comparison of that, all these three lenses versus the 51.2S for the Z mount in a dedicated video going to be at the channel soon. You will see the comparison of all these four lenses. So that 55 3.5 macro lens, it's a macro lens, so it means that you can narrow down the aperture quite a bit, not up to f16, you can go up to f32. So while I was comparing that 55 3.5 macro AIS lens at different apertures starting with 3.5, f4, then 5.6, f8, 11, 16, 22, 32, I came across, I start noticing diffraction in the image. So all the landscapers, they know the term diffraction. Most of you know that. So, but I am making this video dedicatedly for the diffraction. So what exactly the diffraction is? Well, we have to just jump into a little bit of physics over here, and which I have to share with you a little bit of animation. Hopefully I'm able to make animation while I'm going to edit this video. Well, whenever the light travels, or the visible light, alright, it has three characteristics when it hits to any surface. Three phenomenon happens when light strike to any surface or any edge: reflection, refraction, or diffraction. So we are going to talk about diffraction. Reflection is pure reflection, the light reflects to the mirror and bounce back. Refraction is basically light refract and bend through the medium, and it goes back. Light bends a little, and then whichever the medium is passes through, like air, water, vacuum, or whatever. Diffraction is basically different between these three. Diffraction happens when light hit to any edge. It basically bends. Light should not be traveling straight. Actually, light should travel straight, but it never happens. Okay, I'm going to show some animation now. Like, if this is the surface and it has a hole over here, the light enters and pass through the hole. So logically speaking, the light should travel straight, alright? Rest of the light should be blocked, but that usually don't happen like that. What happening is the light travels and rest of the light block from the surface, and whatever the hole open, light enters into that and starts spreading. It's spreading like wave, just like Wi-Fi signal. You've seen that Wi-Fi signal? So just like that. So light basically diverge, and it basically angles outwards rather than traveling straight. As you can see, it's not just traveling straight from this hole, it's basically spread. So that's one hole. Imagine you have 7 or 8 holes. Alright, so when the light, and right now I'm going to make 2 holes in the surface, 2 holes, so light comes. Alright, hit 2 holes and we are going to have 2 separate waveforms. These 2 separate waveforms basically going to interfere with each other. Alright, and if the waveform are in phase, like both of them are having the same height and same low at the same frequency at the same period of time, they add up and they amplify. They basically boost the signal. The resultant signal is going to be additive. But if they are out of phase, like 180-degree, all right, they cancel each other, and the resultant image or the resultant output will be 0 or negative. So in this way we are going to see ripples. We are going to see patterns of highs and lows. There is a very famous thing called double slit experiment. You can Google about that and you will be able to understand. So what exactly happening is, the narrower the hole is where the light is going to pass through, the more diffraction is going to be. What exactly happening in diffraction is, the light is basically the different waveforms going to converge, adding up and cancelling up at the different point in time, which cause light interference, and that light interference in the term of photography called softness. The edges are not going to be soft. Why? Is not going to be sharp. Sorry, the edges or the image is not going to be sharp enough. Why? Because the narrower you are going to do the aperture. So imagine if you have 6 or 7 aperture blades, 7 or 9 aperture blades, light is hitting every single one of them. So imagine if you have 7 aperture blades and it's all the way narrow, f to f32. All right, so it's so small that those 7 aperture blades are literally mashing into each other, and when the light hits to all 7 of them, it will produce one single light beam, basically creating 7 different edges where it hits to 7 different blades. All these 7 different edges will produce 7 different beamform, because what you have seen now, which I just illustrated. Even though the source is the same, but the more the edges, or shall I call the aperture blades, the more the resultant beamform is going to be made inside the lens. Alright, and which basically it means that one source is becoming split into 7 different small sources. These 7 small different sources is going to be adding up and cancelling each other at a different point of time, which causing the overall image not sharp, because they are cancelling each other at some point, or they are adding each other at different point of time. So the overall image is going to be sharp. Now I'm going to stop this video right now, and I'm going to show you the screen recording that I did for you, and then you will see what I'm talking about. So far I just explained you the physics, alright, how it affects into our photography. That's I'm going to show you next. So let's jump onto the screen and I'll show you. Alright, so this is a quick video about the thing called diffraction. I took this bunch of photos of 50 mm. This is like 51.8 pancake lens. This is macro lens 55 mm 3.5 up from 3.5 to f16, and this is 55 1.2 all the way to 16, and this is 50 mm 1.2s all the way to 16. But that's not it. I want to show you diffraction, and diffraction happens from this to this region. This is the 55 mm f 3.5 macro lens, and I want to show you specifically how the diffraction basically ruins the image. So let's check, let's start. So this is f3.5, all right, and I'm zooming in this portion. So you have to focus on this part, especially I focused on D3s over here. So once I'm going to step down and I close the aperture from 3.5, which goes all the way up to f32. So I need you to just focus on this part, how sharp it goes, and then how when I closing the aperture further down, how soft these things going to be. So let's start right now. Right now it's at f3.5. That's cool. And also you notice at the background, so the more I'm going to close the aperture, the background is going to be more in focus. All right, so that's f3.5. As you can see, this is sharp, this is out of focus because of shallow depth of field. That's f4. That's 5.6. So you start seeing these getting sharper. Background is going to be more clear. This is further sharp, 5.6, and you can see over here. So if I go, this is f macro 3.5. So if I'm changing to f4, this is 5.6. So just focus over here as well. So let's start again. 3.5 as 3.5. So you see this area, little soft, this is sharp, this is sharp. Next, 4, F4, a little bit sharp, this is further get sharp, more area in focus. 5.6, this area become more prominent, more sharp, further sharp, this is getting more sharp. F8, everything is sharp from front to back up to here. This area, from this part to this part, everything is sharp. F8, background is becoming more clear. F11, so that's further sharp. Now from this point onwards, start watching this area how it becomes soft. All right, till to this point from f5.6 to f11, it's sharp, so it means that everything is sharp. Now we are going to f16. So this is f11, f16. You see this? Just focus on this part and this part. So this is f11, this is f16. This is getting soft on f16. This is still sharp. This point is still sharp at f11. But the moment I'm going to switch to f16, it's become soft a little. You see, it's becoming soft. This logo especially. F that's f22. That's further sharp. Oh, sorry, this is becoming more soft now. And this is f32. So it's completely gone. There is no sharpness. So everything is in focus. Everything is in focus as f32, but due to diffraction, even this part, the front and everything has become soft, way soft due to diffraction. So goes to f22, it's becoming clear, becoming f11 more sharp, but background is also going to be a little out of focus. F8, so f8 is where you are getting the maximum sharpness of this lens with decent amount of background. But the moment you switch to f32, the sharpness is gone due to diffraction. So diffraction is basically happening when you closing the aperture too much. So f11, f8, 5.6. So this is where you can play safe from 5.6 onwards. F11, f8 and f11. This is the safest zone, which most of the lens are too much sharp, all right, and also there is no diffraction. So that's the practical proof I want to show you. So f16 is getting soft, 22 is becoming more soft, 32 it's gone. So even at f32 I'm getting everything in focus, but it's not sharp due to diffraction. So 16, oh sorry, 22, this is 16, f11, f8. So f8 it turned out to be the best, where things are very sharp. So that's it, that's all I want to show you. So as you have saw into the video how that diffraction was affecting the lens. So what exactly we should do to avoid it? Well, most of the landscapers, they Usually, you know, landscaper, the old school method was for landscapers like go f16 and everything will be in focus. But people, some for landscape photographer, they don't like this because the image is going to be sharp or the image is going to be soft as per diffraction. So they start doing focus stacking. So they look like if the landscape's like foreground, middle ground, and background, so they focus one point, focus another point, focus the background. They stack them into the Photoshop and they try to have one perfect sharp edge to edge image, and that's what all pro landscaper do. Well, I am not a landscaper, I am just a normal clicker. So I tried to do something in the middle I shouldn't be worrying about. So I maximum go F11. F11 for me is the safest zone I can go with. If I go to F13, I start saying, it's the boundary. I shouldn't be going more than F13 and F16 for sure, until unless I'm shooting in broad daylight and or early in the morning when the sun is rising, and I want to have a slower shutter speed. And even at base ISO 100, my exposure is still too much. If I'm trying to have, a shutter speed of 1/4 of a second, because I want to shoot some sea waves, just trying to get the motion of the sea waves. That's where I want to shoot, at shutter priority. I usually shoot shutter priority over there when I want to have the motion into the sea waves. So I shoot at quarter or half a second, and then at base ISO, so my aperture automatically goes to f16 and f22 automatically. But again, I am trying to avoid to go to f16 because of this diffraction issue. But for me, it's still not, because typically the best sharpness of any lens that you can get usually starts from 5.6 all the way up to f11. So this is where all in journal, it's not a law, it's not written in the book, it's just an observation, my limited observation. Like between 5.6 and f11 you will get the best sharpness from the lens. It could be f8, it could be f11, it could be 5.6, but 5.6 is starting, and all the way go up to f11. From f11 onwards, f16, f22, that's where diffraction kicks in and you won't get that kind of sharpness. So how to avoid it? Diffraction, shoot at f11 and use that rule. What that rule is called? Hyperfocal distance. Yeah, it's a long math, hyperfocal distance, and I don't want you to go into that. You can Google hyperfocal distance, but basically hyperfocal distance defines that you have to put the focus point if somewhere 1/3 and the rest will come in focus. It's a whole calculation of aperture value, focal length, and the distance from the sensor to the foreground where you're putting the focus point and all that. So it's a calculation. But it doesn't matter in the end of the day if your image is aesthetically so pleasing. Even if the background is not sharp enough, nobody's going to care because you capture the moment. So capturing the moment is all that matters. Not the hyperfocal distance calculation, not the diffraction. Yeah. I used to be so much technical back in in my past, back in the days. But I don't care anymore. Now I care about capturing the moment. Even I review 50mm 1.2s, and I was literally evaluating that lens so much technically, but I didn't let my aesthetic sense loose. I captured the images from that lens which should be and must be pleasing to the eyes, which contains some character, which contains some story, which contains that feeling, which draws you in, which pulls you in into the image. So yeah, technically that lens is sharp, but sharpness not there. It's not everything. Even you have the best camera gear and best sharp lens, best autofocus, but if your images are not speaking, then it's not pleasing to the eye, then all these thousands of dollars of worth gear is pointless. Anyways, that's not the point. The point was diffraction. So I hope you understood what diffraction is and how to avoid it. I usually shoot up to f11 and that's my safe zone. And rest is okay. I don't do focus stacking. I don't do at all. I try to capture everything. Even if I have to shoot at 1.2, which I did for landscape, even I shot at 2f2 and I was able to get everything in focus. Yeah, there was one image I captured at 2.8, 300 mm, and I was able to get from the point where I put the focus all the way to the back, all in focus at f2.8. I hope I will be able to find that image. I'm going to put it for you. I wish. If I'm not, that my apologies. It was the best example of hyperfocal distance. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you guys in future for some new content. Till then, take care.